Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make ham, cheese, and potato casserole. So what you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this. It's really not a lot that goes into it. However, this is a great recipe if you're after a holiday, if you were doing stuff for Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, you had a ham and you really just wanted to use up some of it before it goes bad, or even if you just have ham in general. This is something really great, really tasty, and makes a wonderful meal. So we're going to start off with some leftover ham, and this is basically what it is, leftover. And you're going to cut up into cubes about 2/3 of a pound. So this is quite a bit of ham for going into a casserole, and it works really great because this plays off of the potatoes and the cheese to give such a great flavor. Now mind you, this is just a straight up ham. This is not one of the honey coated sugar outside things that would have such a sweet flavor. We just want regular ham, because otherwise you're going to change the whole taste of the whole casserole, and it really would not turn out well. So go ahead and cut that up into cubes. We don't want them large cubes, just kind of like, around an inch or so cube. That way, when it mixes in with the rest of everything, it's not jumbo sized. So we're going to cut up all the pieces we have. Make sure that as you're cutting them up, you take off a bit of the fat. A lot of mine was already off, so I didn't have to worry about it. So now we're going to actually grate up the cheese that's going to be in this, because you want to do this ahead of time. This is an 8-ounce block of cheddar cheese. I just use mild. You can change that if you want to perk up the taste of the cheese a little bit. That's your choice. I prefer to grate it myself rather than buy it in the bag, just for the fact that this is going to actually just be a little fresher, a little better, because sometimes the bag is kind of dryish, so I would prefer to do this. So everything that we're cutting up, like the ham and the cheese, we're setting to the side, and we're getting ready to go to the potatoes now. You're going to need at least 4 large potatoes to do this with, because when you're doing this with the potatoes, if you had smaller ones, you could probably do 5 or 6. We're just trying to get to the point where you're not overloading with potatoes, but you want a decent amount of potatoes. So we're going to peel these, make sure there's no dark spots, cut off all of that. And then when we actually get to cutting them up, we're going to cut these again in something that's probably around like an inch wide kind of cube. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be a cube. Just make sure that they're not overly sized, not large, because, you're going to be eating these with other things. You don't want them jumbo. So what I usually do is I peel it, I get rid of all of the dark spots, then I cut the potato in half and then slide it over to the side to where I can actually cut it into 3 wedges, and then I just cut along that to get my pieces that are going in the casserole. And it's just simple, just cut right across and you have your cubes. Now if you have some that look a little too big, you can cut them down from there. Sometimes when potatoes are awkward shapes, you're going to get like, really big slices. However, you can cut them down again. And we're going to do this for each one of the potatoes until we get them to the sizes we want, just to make sure that there are no awkwardly large ones. And then we're going to go ahead to the next step, because once these are all cut up, we're going to have to boil them to get them cooked. So once you're done, you're going to have about this much potatoes. This is quite a lot, actually. But this is going to go in perfectly for what we're making. So we're going to get a big pot. We're going to put water in it and turn it up to medium-high heat. And we're going to put the potatoes in, let this water come to a boil, and boil them for at least 15 minutes. That way they're soft, and you can test this when they're boiled with a fork to see if they're fork tender. If the fork goes into the potato and pushes in easily without a lot of resistance, you're cooked, and then you're ready to move to the next step. But once these are boiled and done, we're going to set them to the side until we're ready for them. And in a skillet, we're going to put 3 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to melt it down a bit. And then we're going to add in a medium onion, and we're going to move this around in the butter and get it coated, because the next step is basically to cook the onion as we're doing other things. And then to this, we're going to bring in that ham that we cut up. So this way, as it's cooking and the onions are cooking, you're actually going to flavor the ham a little bit with the onions. So go ahead and stir it back and forth, and we're going to do this for at least 4 or 5 minutes, and then we're going to add our potatoes in after we drained them. So now that we have everything in the skillet, we're going to move them back and forth a little bit, get them all mixed together, and we are going to cook this for at least 4 or 5 minutes again, just to make sure that those onions are done and that everything is totally incorporated and the flavors are all mixing here. Now, once it's done, we're going to actually dump this into our baking dish, which is basically a 1.5 quart. Get everything in there. And just make sure it's spread it out evenly, and we're going to set it to the side because we're going to the next step. So we're going to put about 4 tablespoons of butter into our pan, and we're going to melt it. And once it's completely melted, we're going to add in 4 tablespoons of flour to it. And what we're going to do is make the base for making the cheese sauce that's going to go over the casserole. So go ahead and mix your butter up, move it around, make sure that it's melting before we move on to the next step. And once it's melted enough, sprinkle your flour over the butter all the way around to where it's an even coating as you're putting it in. And mind you, you're on medium-high heat at this point because you're going to need this to melt the butter, but also to get everything else working with the flour. So once the flour is in, go ahead and mix it up. And you're going to get something that's kind of pasty looking, and that's the way it should be. And just keep mixing it until all the flour is incorporated into the butter. And we're gonna like cook this for almost like maybe 2 minutes or something, just to get rid of the flour taste, because we really don't want that. This just basically is used as a thickening agent. And once we get this done, we're gonna add milk to this, and this is what we're gonna use to make the base. So it's 1.5 cups of milk, but you don't want to put it all in at once. So what we're gonna do is pour half of it in, break up this paste that's in the frying pan, and then once it's completely mixed through, then we're going to add the other half in after. So just put the first half in and start breaking up the pasty flour and butter mixture, and just run your spatula over it. You can use a whisk or a slotted spoon, whichever you want to use, because this is not really hard to break up. It does go pretty quickly. And like I said, once you break that up completely, then go ahead and add the rest of the milk in and stir. And you're going to do this for maybe like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, because you want it to start to thicken a little bit. And once it starts to thicken, that is when we're going to add in our cheese. But right now, we're going to add in salt and pepper, and you're using about 1/2 teaspoon of each. And as you can see, this is thickened up. So it's okay at this point to add the cheese in. You're going to put the whole amount of cheese in at one shot. And once it's in there, you're going to stir it into this mix. And what's going to happen is, as you're stirring, it's going to start to melt. And then everything in the skillet is going to start to turn a yellowish tint. And once it's all melted and all broken down and the whole thing is yellow, you know you're done. So keep stirring it, and then as you can see with mine, it's turning yellow. And it just takes a couple minutes to do this, because once you're hot enough, this will melt. And this is the cheese sauce, and we're just going to pour it over top of what was in our baking dish. And just spread it out a little bit, make sure that it goes down into the potatoes and the ham and everything like that. And then we're going to take 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs and sprinkle over the top. Now, I used Italian breadcrumbs, but you don't have to. You can use like normal. It's your choice, whichever kind you want to use. And you're just going to sprinkle it evenly over top. We're going to preheat our ovens to 350 degrees for this, because this will be in there for about 1/2 hour. And once you get the breadcrumbs on top, you are pretty much ready to put it in the oven. And then when it comes out at 1/2 hour, it's done. And this is what it looks like when it's finished. And this has such a great taste, and it's such a wonderful thing for lunch, dinner, or whenever, just to get rid of some leftovers. It's really worth the effort. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out my cookbooks, which are available in bookstores worldwide. The first is about everyday cooking. The second is all about baking. Have a great day.